I shouldn't have been there that late, but I was. Her living room was quiet in a way that pressed on my chest. The lamp in the corner threw a soft yellow halo over the books scattered on the table, her reading glasses folded neatly on top. She had gone to make tea, and I sat there pretending not to notice the faint sound of the kettle in her kitchen, pretending I wasn't waiting for her in a way that felt wrong. She wasn't mine. She belonged to a life already built, a man already chosen. Yet the silence between us had started to feel like a thread pulling tighter every time we were in the same room. I rubbed my palms against my jeans, restless, rehearsing nothing and everything. When she walked back in, the world seemed to slow. She carried 2 mugs, steam curling into the air, her hands steady despite the late hour. Her eyes caught mine for a moment too long before she looked away. "Chamomile," she said quietly, placing the cup in front of me. "You always look like you need sleep." I almost laughed, but the words caught in my throat. She didn't mean anything by it, or maybe she did. I could never tell. That was the ache of it. She sat across from me, her posture careful, the robe she wore cinched tightly at the waist as if she was protecting herself from something invisible. Her fingers tapped once on the side of her mug before she folded them in her lap. "You don't have to keep coming by, you know," she murmured, her eyes fixed on the steam rising between us. It's not good for you." I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "Then why don't you tell me to stop?" That made her look at me. A long look, longer than it should have been. Her lips parted like she might answer, but nothing came. Instead, she let the silence hang, heavy and full. I'd never been good with silence. So I filled it. "I know I'm too young," I said, my voice softer than I meant. "I know people would talk. I know you've got your life. But when I'm here, with you, I don't care about any of that." Her jaw tightened. Her hands pressed against her knees like she needed to anchor herself. "You can't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because it makes it harder," she whispered, and for a moment her face betrayed her, eyes flickering, throat moving as if she swallowed words she wasn't ready to say. The clock ticked in the corner, louder than it should have been. I watched her, waiting. She didn't move, but her stillness said everything. That she wanted to close the space between us. That she couldn't. That she might. And then, as if the universe decided the moment had stretched far enough, the sound came, sharp, breaking through everything. The doorbell. Her head snapped toward the hallway. My heart sank, though I didn't even know why yet. She rose too quickly, almost knocking her mug. She didn't look at me again before disappearing toward the door, leaving me staring at the steam curling from her abandoned cup, wondering if the silence we'd shared had just ended, or if it had only begun. The doorbell rang again, sharper this time, like it wanted to slice through the moment we'd left unfinished. I sat frozen, listening to her hushed voice in the hallway, muffled by the half-closed door. A man's tone answered, casual but familiar. My stomach knotted even before I heard her say his name, her husband's. I shouldn't have stayed. I should have slipped out the back like I wasn't there at all. But I didn't move. I couldn't. When she came back, she carried herself differently. The robe was pulled tighter, her expression arranged into something neutral, but her hands betrayed her. The way she smoothed the fabric down too many times, the way her fingers lingered on the knot at her waist. "He forgot his keys," she said simply, though I hadn't asked. "He's gone again. Won't be back until late." Her voice cracked on that last word, so faint it could have been missed, but I caught it. I caught everything with her, even the things she never meant me to. I wanted to ask why she let me stay at all. Why she made tea for me, why she never told me to leave even when she should. Instead, I asked something else. "Were you happy with him? Back then, when you first married?" Her eyes flicked up to mine, startled. "That's not fair." "I know. I'm sorry. I cut myself off, pressing my palms against my thighs. "You just what?" You just want her to admit she's lonely? You just want her to say she thinks of you when she shouldn't? She sighed softer this time, leaning back into the couch cushions like she was suddenly tired. It wasn't about happiness. It was about stability. I thought I was choosing wisely. I thought love would grow into something steady. And did it? Her silence was answer enough. I looked at her, really looked. The faint lines at the corners of her eyes, the way her hair had come loose from its clip, brushing against her neck. She was beautiful in the way that made your chest ache, not just because of how she looked, but because of what she carried, years of holding herself together, of burying the softer parts so no one could hurt them again. I wanted to tell her she didn't have to do that with me. But I was just a boy in her eyes, wasn't I? A reckless impulse. A mistake waiting to happen. You'll regret it, she said suddenly, her gaze fixed on the untouched tea. If you keep coming back here, you'll regret it. I already regret enough, I murmured. Her eyes snapped to mine at that, something unreadable flickering across her face. For a moment neither of us spoke. The world felt narrowed down to the space between us. And then it happened, so small, so quick anyone else would have missed it. Her hand shifted, just enough that her fingers brushed against mine where they rested on the couch. Not an accident. Not deliberate either. A ghost of a touch, but enough to undo me completely. Her fingers brushed mine, and I forgot how to breathe. Just a flicker of skin on skin, but it lit something raw in me, something I couldn't hide. She must have felt it too, because she pulled her hand back like she'd touched fire. We can't, she whispered, shaking her head. I leaned closer without meaning to. Then tell me to stop. Her lips parted, her chest rising sharply, then the sound of a phone shattered it. A sharp buzz on the table. We both flinched. She grabbed it too fast, holding it like a shield. His name lit up the screen. Her husband. She didn't answer. Just pressed it face down, fingers trembling against the wood. You should go, she said, her voice steadier than her hands. I didn't move. Is that really what you want? Silence. A silence so loaded it pressed between my ribs. Then the front door rattled, keys in the lock. My heart seized. She shot up, panic flashing across her face. Go now, she hissed, shoving me toward the back hallway. Bathroom. Don't make a sound. I obeyed, pulse hammering as I slipped inside, shutting the door just as the front door swung open. Muffled voices spilled through the wall. His voice, deep, casual, too at ease for the storm in my chest. He was talking about traffic, about dinner, about nothing. And she was answering, soft, even, like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't almost let me kiss her moments before. I sat on the edge of the bathtub, fists clenched. The tiled room was cold, and the mirror caught my reflection, flushed face, wide eyes, a man caught in something he wasn't supposed to want. The seconds stretched like hours. Every laugh he gave, every step of his shoes on the hardwood, was a reminder of the wall between us. And yet, beneath it all, I knew she felt me there. Knew she hadn't forgotten. Finally, the door slammed shut again. His voice faded. Gone. I barely had time to breathe before the bathroom door creaked open. She stood there, pale, the robe still tight around her, her breath shaky. You need to leave, she said, but softer this time, almost pleading. I stood, moving toward her. And if I don't? Her back touched the doorframe as she instinctively stepped away from me. But she didn't move further. Her eyes locked on mine, wide, unsteady. You'll ruin me, she whispered. Or maybe I'll save you, I answered. For a heartbeat we stood there, her breath brushing my chin, my hand hovering near her arm, both of us caught in a gravity we couldn't resist. And then she turned her face just slightly, breaking the line between us, and pressed her palm flat against my chest. Not to push me away. Not to pull me closer. Just there, steady, Her touch a warning and a confession at once. Her hand lingered on my chest, her palm warm even through the fabric. Neither of us moved. The quiet stretched until I thought it might tear me open. Then she drew in a shaky breath and pulled away, retreating to the living room as if the distance could erase what had just happened. I followed. I couldn't not. "Why do you keep letting me in?" I asked, my voice rough. "Why not just shut the door and end this?" She stopped, her back to me, shoulders rigid. "Because I don't trust myself to." The honesty of it hit harder than I was ready for. I stepped closer, slow, careful. "Then trust me." Her laugh was bitter short. "You're too young to understand what that costs." "I'm not too young to know what I want." Her head turned just enough that I saw her eyes glint in the lamplight, a storm of things unsaid. She looked at me like I was both salvation and danger. "You think this is just about wanting?" she said. "You have no idea what it's like to build a life, to be tied to it by promises, by history, by appearances. If anyone knew about this, about you and me, they don't." I cut in. "And they won't. It's just us. No one else." Her lips trembled, though she pressed them tight. "You don't get it. He's not just my husband. He's—" She stopped, biting off the rest. "What?" I pressed, my voice rising. "What is he?" Her silence was its own answer. Something bigger than just vows, something that bound her to him even while her body leaned toward me. Jealousy scorched through me, ugly and uninvited. I hated how easily his name sat on her phone, how casually he could walk into her home. He got to claim her by law, by habit, while I sat in her shadows, waiting. "You think about me," I said, my voice low, shaking. "I see it. I feel it. Don't tell me I'm imagining it." Her hands curled into fists at her sides. She turned then, fully, her face inches from mine. "Of course I think about you," she hissed. "Do you think I sleep? Do you think I don't hear your voice in my head at night? But wanting you and having you are two very different things." I swallowed hard, my pulse in my throat. "Then stop lying to both of us." The space between us crackled, electric. She stared at me, breathing fast, as if standing on the edge of a cliff. "You'll ruin everything," she whispered again, but her voice broke in the middle of it. My hand twitched at my side, aching to reach for her. She didn't step back this time. She didn't move at all. And then, just as my fingers brushed the air between us, the sound came again. The door. A knock this time, loud, insistent. Her eyes widened, and the spell shattered. The knock thundered through the room, and for a moment neither of us moved. Her eyes darted to the door, then back to me, wild, uncertain. Another knock, harder this time. She swallowed, whispering, "Stay quiet." Then she crossed the room and opened the door a crack. It wasn't her husband. It was her daughter. My chest tightened as I caught her voice, bright, too cheerful for the weight pressing down on us. "Mom? Are you okay?" "I tried calling, but you didn't pick up." I froze. Her daughter. My friend. The reason I should have never crossed this line in the first place. Through the crack, I saw her eyes flick past her mother's shoulder, scanning the room. My jacket was still on the chair. My mug still on the table. Her brows pinched. I had a friend over," her mother said quickly, adjusting her robe, too casual to be believable. "We were just talking." A silence followed, heavy with suspicion. Then her daughter's voice dropped, quieter, almost sharp. "Was it him?" The words hit me like a blow. My blood ran cold. She knew. Maybe not everything, not yet, but enough. Her mother's hand tightened on the door. "You're imagining things." "No, I'm not." A pause. "I've seen the way he looks at you. And the way you look back." I pressed my fist to my mouth, the weight of it pressing me down. My secret, our secret, wasn't secret anymore. Her mother's voice faltered. Go home, sweetheart. We'll talk tomorrow. But her daughter didn't budge. Does Dad know? Her mother flinched. Even from where I stood, hidden, I saw it. And that was all the answer her daughter needed. There was a sharp inhale, then footsteps retreating down the hall, quick and clipped. The front door slammed. She stood there, her back to me, her hand still gripping the knob like it was holding her up. For a long moment, the house was silent again, too silent. Finally, she turned. Her face was pale, stricken, but her eyes burned when they met mine. This has to end, she said, voice trembling but fierce. Before it destroys everything. The words gutted me. I wanted to argue, to beg, to tell her it was already too late. But I saw the fear in her, the fear of losing her family, her reputation, her daughter. Do you mean it? I asked, my voice raw. She opened her mouth, but no answer came. Instead, she closed her eyes, as if shutting me out was easier than saying the truth aloud. When she opened them again, tears shimmered. I don't know, she whispered. I don't know anything anymore. And then she walked past me, leaving me alone in the living room, the air heavy with the sound of a slammed door and the knowledge that the ground beneath us had shifted forever. The next day stretched like a wound that wouldn't close. I didn't call her. She didn't call me. But every sound of my phone vibrating sent my chest into knots, every silence after it made the ache worse. When I finally went to her house that evening, it wasn't because I thought it was smart. It was because I couldn't do anything else. She opened the door slowly, like she'd expected me. Her eyes were red, her face drawn, but she didn't send me away. She stepped aside, and I walked in. The house felt colder this time. No lamp glow, no cups of tea waiting. Just the two of us standing in the half-dark. You shouldn't be here, she said, her voice steady but frayed at the edges. I know. After last night. She trailed off, pressing her fingers to her temple. She knows. My daughter. If she tells him, do you love him? I cut in. My voice was sharper than I meant, but I couldn't stop it. Her hand fell. Slowly she shook her head. Not in the way I should. Then what are we doing? I stepped closer, searching her face. What are we fighting so hard to hide if it's not even real with him anymore? Her chest rose and fell quickly, her breath uneven. Because real or not, it's my life. My family. My choices. You think love is enough to hold all of that? I swallowed hard, but I didn't look away. It's the only thing that ever has. She stared at me then, like she was trying to memorize me. Her lips trembled, her eyes glossed over, and I knew she was breaking, just like I was. I can't lose her, she whispered. Not for this. Not even for you. The words should have gutted me. Maybe they did. But there was something else in them too, the way her voice shook on you, the way her hand twitched like it wanted to reach for mine. I closed the space between us, slow, deliberate, until I could feel the warmth of her breath. My hand hovered near her cheek, but I didn't touch her. Not yet. Then tell me to go, I said quietly. Really tell me. And I will. Her eyes burned into mine, torn wide open. The seconds dragged, each one heavier than the last. Finally, she exhaled, a sound that was half a sob, half a surrender. I can't. Her words cracked something inside me. And before either of us could think better of it, her forehead pressed against my chest, her hands clutching at my shirt like she was drowning and I was the only thing keeping her above water. I wrapped my arms around her, holding her tighter than I'd ever held anything. Messy. Wrong. Necessary. The future was a storm waiting outside that door. But in that moment, in that fragile silence, we were exactly where we weren't supposed to be. Together. We stayed like that, her pressed against me, my arms locked around her, for longer than either of us dared to admit. The world outside didn't exist in that moment. No husband. No daughter. No questions about what tomorrow would demand. But eventually she pulled back, her hands slipping from my shirt like she'd realized how tightly she'd been holding on. Her eyes were swollen, tired, but clearer somehow. "I can't live two lives," she whispered. "You don't have to," I said too quickly. "We can." She shook her head before I could finish. "It's not that simple. Nothing ever is." The truth of that sank between us like a stone in water. She wasn't wrong. Love didn't erase responsibilities, or undo years of choices. But still, I couldn't let go, not when I had finally felt her heart beating against mine. "Then what do you want?" I asked softly. "Not what you're supposed to want. Not what anyone else expects. Just you." Her lips parted, but no words came. She looked at me with that same torn expression I'd seen 100 times, the one caught between longing and fear. And then, for the first time, she let it fall away. "I want you," she said, barely more than a breath. The air left my lungs all at once. I reached for her hand, and this time she didn't pull away. Our fingers locked together, tight, like something we'd both been starved for. She sat with me on the couch, and for the first time, she didn't leave space between us. She leaned into me, resting her head on my shoulder, and we sat in silence. Not the heavy silence from before, not the silence of denial, but a softer one. A silence that felt like promise. Of course, reality wasn't gone. Her daughter knew. Her husband would notice the cracks sooner or later. The risk hadn't vanished, it had only grown. But as her thumb brushed over my knuckles, slow and deliberate, I realized something. I didn't care. I'd take the whispers, the judgment, the fallout. I'd take every risk if it meant I could have this, her, without pretending anymore. She must have felt the same, because she whispered, almost to herself, "Maybe it's time I stopped living for everyone else." I didn't answer. I just kissed the top of her head, letting her words hang in the quiet, knowing they were heavier than any vow. We didn't plan the future that night. We didn't map out the consequences or swear ourselves into some fairy tale ending. We just sat there, holding on to each other, knowing the world outside might collapse, but at least we'd face it together. And for the first time, that was enough. Sparkles, did you enjoy the story? Thought Balloon, what kind of stories would you like to hear next?